So I've got some New Year's Eve follow-up based on the discussion that we had on the last episode, believe it or not.
Oh yeah, already? We're only 15 days in.
Yeah, we're only 15 days in, and we're in there.
Yeah.
Usually it takes a month to get feedback from our episodes. No,
Yeah.
yeah. So I've actually got like two people close to me that said that when they listened to our New Year's resolution segment in particular, that it was actually kind of inspiring for them. Just like the way we were talking about like the themes and everything, like in the video that I link in the show notes as well, like that. Like we're changing lives out here on The Wrong Fit. Like, can you like?
We're life coaches. We should just be. We could just be life coaches. We're the wrong fit, but we're the right life coach. We're the right life coach for your life. Now, I that's interesting. I didn't get exactly the same feedback, but I got similar feedback from one of my friends, who he said that it wasn't that like it basically he said that our discussion kind of mirrored his own thoughts on like the New Year's resolutions, like kind of wanting to be, actually follow through with them this year and like what that means and keeping things kind of general. Like we had talked about keeping things a little bit general and not being as hard on yourselves and trying to find that balance. That's what he said that he had already been thinking on that kind of vein. And, I think it's good that like people are also just latching on to what we're saying as though like this is, similar to what their experiences. Because I think a lot of these things that we might feel as like, our own experiences can be very like easily universalized, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, it's really interesting to get like feedback from people. What exactly did your feedback say, like in changing their outlook, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, it was just like I think everyone has a vague idea at the start of the year of what they would like to achieve, and they have those very like specific goals that we were talking about in the last episode.
Yeah.
And when I brought up that instead of having those specific goals, have a theme for the year that is like tied to what you want to improve in your life, and any little thing you do that is like an actionable step towards achieving that theme. That's something that from what I heard was something that was never that they never thought about before. That like, why are my goals failing? Like, why aren't I achieving my goals? And when you have that conversation, it's really oriented around specific goals and like benchmarks that if you don't achieve them, then it's the kind of thing that makes you want to throw your goals away. But the whole idea of the yearly theme, which again, I will put that video again in the show notes for people that want to watch that. That kind of does away with that whole idea. It really like shifts the conversation, like your internal conversation from hyper specific goal oriented to day-to-day little actions that contribute to your yearly theme, right? So last time I think I said something about reading. So instead of like a little day-to-day actionable step is instead of watching TV, you could read a book and you're already achieving your target. You're already achieving that theme.
Yeah.
You're taking part in it. Instead of your goal being read 20 books at the end of the year, and when you get to the end of the year, you haven't read 20, but instead of that, it's just read more and be a person that reads more. Another example might be, if you had like a year of novelty. Again, this is an example that comes from the video. It's really interesting, but instead of a goal that is, I want to do 5 things that I wouldn't do or 5 countries that I want to go visit or whatever, it's more just take actions that are novel in your life or that are unusual, something that you wouldn't have done the previous year. So it's just little things like that. Like that was something that it's like a simple idea, but unless you have it planted in your head, like you may not come up with it on your own. So that's sort of the feedback I was getting, that we put them on to something that they hadn't thought about before, and hopefully it'll change their direction for this year. And I mean, that means a lot to me and to us, I think, and that we kind of brought that to The Wrong Fit. And like you said, now we're life coaches. I mean, book us at your company convention, and we'll charge like $20,000 each, and we'll be each, and we'll do check it out. We will do a live The Wrong Fit recording. We'll do some coaching. We'll do some one-on-one sessions to get you prepped and optimized and everything and synergistic and all those other corporate buzzwords, and we'll get there, man. We'll do it. You and me, man.
Yeah, dude. If you give me 20 grand, I'll do that.
I'll do anything for 20 grand.
Yeah, seriously. But but I think it's interesting, and that does really make me feel good. Because man, like that's awesome. Like I really, that does really make me feel good that like people are kind of resonating. That kind of discussion is resonating with them, because I think you definitely hit the nail on the head with when you were describing. I think honestly it resonated with me a bit too. Like even though I think we had similar outlooks going towards the year, but I think that kind of the way that you framed it made me reframe how I was going to do these goals. Because what really resonated with me is the thought that you kind of brought to the table of like every single day you can achieve your New Year's resolution. Like it's not just something that like you look at the end of the week or at the end of the year or at the end of the month or whatever and say, did I check it off this box? It's like, you know, you can, if you want to check out the box, you can do that right now by picking up a book. And I think that's what really resonated with me. And I think that, you know, I mentioned that I had similar feedback from one of my friends, and it's interesting because his feedback was almost the opposite in the sense that it was retro. He was almost retroactively saying like, yeah, that's the decision I came to about what I want to make my year like. So my friend, you know, he's like my best friend. He's a musician. He makes fantastic music. Shout out Matthew Bolin. His band is Rental Space. You can find him on IG and stuff. But he basically a couple months ago, when at the beginning of the school year, not the year, he basically said, you know, this year I'm not going to be working. I don't have an internship. I don't have any extracurricular responsibilities. This year, I've saved up money and I've saved up, you know, I've made some good experience in college. And this year, I really just want to dedicate my entire extracurricular time to making music, to trying to make it work, to trying to, you know, be a songwriter, to be a performer, to kind of like, you know, pursue his passions. And that was a few months ago. That was like way before I was having any thoughts of New Year's resolution. It was almost like a new school year's resolution happening at, you know, late August kind of thing. But, you know, he's kind of taken that and he listened to the episode and he kind of told me like, yeah, like that's it. Like that's exactly what I was trying to do with my time was I don't want to say like, you know, at the end of this year, I'm going to have, you know, 1 million subscribers on my YouTube channel or my SoundCloud or whatever, or like on Spotify or wherever, you know, I end up putting out my singles and putting out my album. I just want to be able to say at the end of the year, like every single day I can just do a little bit to work on my musical career, my musical passions. And that's to me, that to him, like that's what achieving the New Year's resolution was about. It's not about whether or not you play in front of 1 million people or not. It's about whether or not you're like successful in kind of, you know, doing what you set your mind out to do. Because like you can't, I think we discussed this last week, is you can't really affect what other people do. You can't affect who subscribes to you. You can't affect who clicks on your music or, you know, listens to your whatever. But you can affect kind of what you do and what work you put into it. And I think that's really what a New Year's resolution kind of has to be about. So I think it's really good that both, you know, people took our discussion and said, you know, that's something that I want to pursue. And also it's, you know, we tapped into something that really resonates with people and like is what people's plans, you know, are. Cause like, I think that was just kind of the crux of the conversation of what we were talking about with New Year's resolutions.
So any news on your yearly theme, anything that you've done so far? I know it's only 15 days in, but you know, it's still worth a check-in.
Yes. So I definitely, on the photos front, I've definitely been able to take more. Ironically, also, I've been able to invest both time and money into it because my Adobe subscription ran out, which that was unfortunate. No. And this is my last year on the student plan. So that is something I'm going to have to deal with and you know, be an adult and start paying for my Adobe full price. But yeah, no, I've been able to take a lot more pictures. Yeah, cherish it. I really will be cherishing because I'm not going to get all the apps, you know, all the apps in the Creative Cloud. I'm just going to get the ones I use mostly, but it's nice to have the ones.
Know. Is that a good deal for you if you do it like a la carte? Like, isn't it a better deal overall if you just get all of them?
I'm not going to use all of them though. Like
Okay.
I use Lightroom and Photoshop, and besides that, like sometimes I'll use Illustrator for like Udemy stuff or work stuff, student organizations or stuff for my job. But like usually for the type of stuff I want to pursue creatively, it's just Photoshop and Lightroom, and you can get those a la carte for a lot cheaper. Because right now, like the student plan is like 130 for the year, and that's like pretty decent for a year.
Yeah. That's solid. Yeah.
Yeah,
Easy.
it's fantastic. But once you change it to monthly, and once you get off the student plan, it's gonna be a lot more. So I think I can get it pretty cheaply a la carte for just those two. But we'll see. We'll see what financial situation I am in come August or come next year when I have to get my new subscription. But yeah, no, I have been pursuing my interest of photography a lot more. Working out has been a little bit more difficult because I work out outside because I'm not going to. Yeah, so I've got like a little bench it's actually like my grandpa's bench from the 1940s. So it's like some real just like Muscle Beach type beat, going out there
That's
with
dope.
my grandpa's like rusty. It feels very like man's man kind of thing to do. It's like these rusty weights.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Men like gotta get a mustache and just, I don't know. It's just like very masculine energy out there. But I haven't been able to do as much because it's been, freezing some days, and some days it's been nice in Austin. It's kind of back and forth in Austin. But yeah, it's just been kind of tough to schedule around with that. But I'm definitely going to try and keep my mind. I don't feel like, again, one resolution I've definitely been able to pursue and been able to pursue well. The other resolution, I don't think that I've been able to work out as much as I'd like to. But again, I'm not going to take that like mentality of I failed my resolution. This is no longer my resolution. Yeah. We're 15 days in, and I've worked out. It's not like I haven't worked out at all. And like every time I work out, like you're doing the resolution. Totally. So it's just keeping your mind set on the stuff. How have you been doing on your resolutions?
I've been doing pretty well, actually. So part of my resolutions for this year, or my yearly themes rather, I don't know that I discussed it that much on the previous episode, but I'm trying to listen to more music. And actually this is a topic that we can get into at some point because I have it on the topic sheet, but I've been trying to just listen to more music. I came into this realization because have you heard of a website called Last FM?
Last FM. That's for a second I thought you said Ask FM, and I got some weird.
No, that's different.
Flashback
No,
to middle school.
No.
I've heard of it before, but I'm not super familiar with what it actually is. Yeah.
So I will give you the skinny. So Last FM is a music like social networking website, but the big like draw of it is that you create an account, you link it with your Spotify, your Apple Music, whatever you got. And it keeps a track record of everything you listen to. And it over the years, like it'll compile lists for you and charts and stuff like that. But like you can just log into your account like right now and look at like everything you listen to today in order. You can look at your top, like your number one artist, like all the way down. You can look at pretty much every song you've ever listened to. It'll give you how many times like you listen to music. They call them scrobbles. So like one scrobble is like a listen, right? So if I listen to The Weeknd, Die For You, if I listen to it, like it has like an arbitrary cutoff point. I think it's like 50%. So if you listen to more than half the song, that's one scrobble. And if you listen to all of it, that's still one. So if I listen to that, it'll be there, top of my page, The Weeknd, Die For You, and it'll add that to how many times I've listened to The Weeknd, and also Die For You, and also the Starboy album, and also songs, how many times I've listened to music in 2021 so far, and everything, right? So
that's really cool.
It is really good. I have had this app since 2014, so it's pretty solid. Like
that's pretty cool.
The past like 7 years of my life, it has like kept track of everything that I've listened to.
If there's one thing I know about Marco, it's that guy loves his analytics.
Yeah, I mean it's good. It's interesting. I love checking in on it. I pretty much log into it like almost every day, just like see what's up. But I usually like every couple days because it also compiles like weekly, monthly, and yearly reports of all your listening. Right. So weekly it's like, here's how many Scrabbles you had this week. Who was your top artist this week? New artist this week. And it also compare you to your followers. So I have a few followers, and a few of my friends have Last FM. So I'm always like comparing myself, like, did I listen more than they did? So it's kind of like competitive too. Yeah, it's fun. It's a lot of fun. Eli,
That's
actually,
really cool.
I really recommend you make an account and follow me. And
I will for sure. That's really cool. I hear a bunch of people have like Spotify and stuff, and they get their raps and stuff. But that's really cool.
I get my raps. I get my raps whenever I want to. You know, I don't have to. I don't have to look into. I like Spotify Wrapped. It's a really social thing. It's a really fun thing.
Yeah.
But like, it's never a surprise because I already know exactly like what my number one song this year was, my number one artist, number one album. Well, anyway, right? So
interesting.
So like I said, they make these yearly reports, right? Mm-hmm. So I got my report for the yearly ones. They take a little bit of a time to compile because they're also like adding in like other information about it. So they take a couple days to release after the new year. So I got mine like January 3rd or whatever, and for 2020, and I did not like discover like any really big artist this year.
Oh.
So what discover means is that like basically like have you like if the first Scrabble you had for that artist was this year, then that's like an artist like you discovered. And the biggest one that I had was the guy that does Roxanne, that TikTok song. And like that's the only song from him I listened to. So like this is not, it doesn't count, right? Because if you look at 2019, that was like the year that I started listening to Post Malone and like Harry Styles and all these other people. Like that was a big year, 2019. I had a lot of artists that I added to my repertoire, if you will. 2020, like none of that was going on. And I was like, wow, I didn't discover like almost anything in 2020. Like a lot of new songs, but like no new artists, really no new albums, anything interesting either. And I could feel it. You can feel yourself being in like a musical rut. Like you don't know what to listen to and all your songs sound old and you try to go discover something and you just like hate everything. Everything is boring and you can't listen to it. Like it's just tough, right? So part of that has been like I'm just trying to like listen to more new music every day if I can. Try to listen to like what are like the poppin' albums that are like coming out every week. You know, like trying to get into like more experimental stuff, indie stuff, maybe like some ambient. You know, I'm just trying to diversify.
So it's not just like, okay, because when I hear I want more new music, I think that different people mean two different things. What some people I think mean is I want more of the same type of music I like. Like I'm looking for new artists. I'm not looking for new genres, if that makes sense. Like I'm looking for, if like, let's say that like, you know, I really like, you know, rap music or like, you know, kind of trap music. Right. Like, it's not like I'm trying to, I'm not just going to try and listen to the Strokes. I don't want to keep listening to Travis Scott, but I want to listen to more people like Travis Scott, you know? But some people, when they say, and I think this is kind of what you're getting at, is you want to open yourself up to new, you want to not change what artists you like. You want to almost like change what kind of music you like and like open yourself up to a broader, more types of music. Is that right? Are you more on that end of the spectrum?
I actually mean a little bit of both. So it's good that that distinction is really clear and it's really valid. I am never against the idea of like more rap that I like, more pop that I like. More like R&B, synth pop, whatever. I'm not against any of that. That's really great. It's like partly what I mean because you know, it can be, like I said, 2020 was a really dry year for me. I didn't discover any new artists of note. And, you know, again, a lot of new songs from my favorite artists, which I always appreciate, you know, like The Weeknd and The Weeknd and The Weeknd. The Weeknd had a really big year. But you know what I mean, right? So there's a little bit of that in there. But there's also, like you said, like new genres. Like I looked at like all the year end, like 2020, like album lists from all of like the really pretentious publications. But I like the pretentious publications. You know, I read them. I want to feel like in with them. And like more than half of those albums, I had no idea like what is this music. I've never heard of any of these people. And it's not that I want to be like one of those people that are like, oh, you wouldn't know them. They're not mainstream or any of those dumb things that people say. It's not about that. It's not about that at all. It's more just like, I want to open myself up to new kinds of stuff that I, you know, sounds and ideas that I've never heard before. I'm not going to like all of it, but I want to like have that exposure. So I'm trying to like read Pitchfork more often. I'm trying to like look at like the Rate My Music like platforms and everything, so that's sort of where I'm at with that.
I guess that's true. You never know what you like until you try it. Definitely. I think music is so much easier to try things than it is to try maybe books or movies or TV shows.
Yeah.
Because that requires such a longer commitment than like an hour-long album for sure. But definitely, I definitely see where you're coming from with the new music. So if I'm getting it straight, like last year, you felt like you didn't find enough new music. So this year, you feel like you almost have. That's the reason. That's what kind of like, created this want for new music. Is that right?
Yeah, like I said, like last year, I didn't feel it. Like last year, I could tell that I just wasn't listening to anything new from like new artists or anything. Like I could just tell that was happening. I didn't really like think twice about it, other than just being like, oh yeah, like I really would like some new music at some point.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting how analytics can almost like tell you what you already know. Like you already knew, like you said with your Spotify rap, you already know who your top song and artists are at the end of the year, but you need that like to tell you, hey, you're listening to a lot of The Weeknd or whatever. The Weeknd or your second artist The Weeknd or your third artist The Weeknd.
Yeah.
But I think it's interesting. So I definitely have a theory that I feel like, because I feel like maybe I felt the same way too about my music listening, and I don't have the analytics to back it up. But I wonder if it has to do with quarantine. I would imagine it really would have to do with it, because I think that the way I listen to new music, and I think this is kind of the crux of this discussion, is like, how do you listen to music? How do you find new music? I usually like get it from a friend who suggests something, or or going to a show that I'm not really all invested in, but like a friend has an extra ticket, or going to ACL, which I've gone to for the past 4 years. I've been lucky enough to go to ACL, and like there, I always find a new artist that I'd never heard of before. Just kind of walking around the venue, walking around the festival, and all those things did not exist this year. Like you didn't really go to your friend's house and hear them playing whatever music. You didn't go to the concert. You didn't go to the festival. And I think all of that kind of adds up to less new music, which is unfortunate for us. It's also unfortunate for like artists that are like kind of up and coming, right, too. But yeah, that's interesting. I definitely like would mirror that. But I don't have the analytics to like back it up, and I didn't have the analytics to tell me like, hey, dude, you're not listening to a lot of new music. So yeah, it's interesting. Like I definitely want to get this Last FM, and I think I might also want to try and broaden my horizons when it comes to music, because I've never really thought of myself as like a huge music person, especially with my brother and other people I know. My best friend who's an artist. Like I've got other people in my life that are so into it. And I've always felt like, okay, that they're the music people. And like my brother, like he's so talented. He like literally made like we've mentioned before, shout out again to Noah for making the intro music to this podcast. But
for sure,
seeing my friends do like really cool stuff like that, it's just been like, well, I'm never going to get music, like I'm like, I'm never going to get music in the way that they really get the music. So maybe I'll steal your theme if that's okay.
Yeah, please have it. Please have it. Just bring it back when you're done with it, so I can borrow it as well.
I'll watch it. Yeah. I'll make sure it's like all nice and ready, and you can have your theme back.
Can you watch my theme for me while I go use the bathroom?
Oh yeah, for sure. I got your theme. I'll take very very good care of it.
Very good care of it. So here's an idea that I had just the other week. I was thinking, because like music is a pretty big part of like this podcast. We talk about music like pretty often. Like we do the album reviews, and we do them when we feel like they're like big album, cultural albums, whatever. Basically, it's only been like 2 Taylor Swift albums, and now we're a music podcast, right? But my idea was like you and I should make like a 10-song playlist for each other, and we'll make sure that we haven't heard any of the other songs, right? And like we can like listen to it and we can discuss it on the next episode. Okay. What do you think about that?
I like that. I really like that. I like that. Yeah. Because I think that's gonna help. Because I think something we didn't mention when we were talking about New Year's, themes, resolutions, things you want to do for the year, is how important it is to have like a good support and having like friends help you along with that. I think that would be fantastic. Just kind of have that support on us both. Like reaching our goals, I think it's very interesting. Like I've been kind of picking up on just like, especially over quarantine, a very different, and I say especially over quarantine, especially over the past 5 years, of like different ways in which people are consuming media. Like it just, we've seen in the past few years, especially like everybody has a streaming service. Like
Yeah.
everybody's got, you got the Peacock now, you got the Disney Plus now, you've got the all this like random stuff. Like some of the stuff I've never even heard of. And talking about music, talking about listening to new music, talking about watching anything, like watching new movies, TVs, any new media, like that really does have an effect. And I think it's a good effect on like, keeping yourself open to more things. That really has an effect
Right.
on how people listen to new stuff, I think. And I'm trying to think of the positives and negatives of that kind of transition, because I think that there is a positive. It's like, if you want to listen to the new, the new Drake album, you don't have to, own it, or you don't have to like keep on pressing the, what's it called, the little like sample you used to have on iTunes. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, like the like
Yeah,
30
I think so.
second. Yeah, like you like
Oh
the
man.
preview. Yeah,
Yeah.
but which I think is just like crazy for like a 2 minute song. They'll give you like 30-second preview. But or you go on Vivo or whatever. That's kind of like not really a thing anymore because everyone's just like, oh, it's on. Like I'll send you the Spotify link or whatever.
Right. Right.
Yeah, and I just think it's really interesting because like because of what like it's almost like because of what like financial and I was thinking about like with Netflix and HBO and all these things like HBO like I'm thinking about getting rid of Netflix and getting HBO because I only want to have a certain I only want to have a certain budget allocated towards media. I think like I don't want to have like I don't watch a ton of I watch like a lot of TV and movies, but I don't watch like any more than the average person. And like I don't know, I just don't feel comfortable paying for a bunch of streaming services. So I'm thinking about swapping them out, and I'm just looking at both of them on paper, like Netflix and HBO, and like looking at what I like to watch and like what kind of stuff I like, and movies and TV and all that. And just like looking at it on paper, it's like, man, why did I not do this a long time ago? Right? Because it's like on paper, like I have so much more like with HBO Max, like there's so much more media there that I would like want to consume. But I just always have had Netflix, so I still have Netflix. But if I didn't always have Netflix, I would have, I would have started out, if I started out like fresh today, I would just start off with HBO Max because I just see like, okay, has the stuff I like. I just think it's really interesting because I've had a Netflix, for years now. And like, I wonder how much of an effect having Netflix has had on like just what media I consume, like instead of, obviously like, what's on there is like, what you're going to watch. And I just think I don't know, it's just interesting because like, I like looking at the stuff on HBO Max, it's like, oh man, that's a movie. I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but it's like, man, that's a movie I've been wanting to watch forever. And it's on HBO Max and it's not on Netflix. Like, come on, I should have just done this a long time ago. It feels like, and it just feels weird, being in that place where I'm about to jump ship. I just think it's strange how like what lane you get into. It's like what cast you choose to put yourself in of like what streaming service gang you're in has such an effect on what you consume, And I think it's generally a good thing because like having a subscription, you can try things and mix and match and all that. But it definitely is really weird to be like, okay, I'm not going to watch this movie because I just don't happen to be paying this company like $15 a month or whatever.
That is such a big thing, especially since like cable is just so uncommon now for like most like young people. So when someone comes up to you and they say, "Oh, have you seen this show?" and you ask them like, where do I watch it? Like what they're not going to tell you what channel to watch it on. They're going to tell you what streaming platform to watch it on.
I don't know what my channels are. Like I don't know what I remember like when I was a kid, Nickelodeon was like 43 and like Cartoon Network was 22. But I could not tell you what any other like, like channel is nowadays.
I remember being really young before like obviously like I have always been like I've always had the internet around me, right? But like this was before like streaming services really became I mean, honestly, God, this was way before streaming services became ubiquitous because I remember being really young and at home we only had we had a cable package that only had around like 75 channels. So it's kind of like a very small cable package. when we would go visit my uncle's house, he had satellite DirecTV.
Wow.
And that was like God. I mean, it might as well have been a million channels. He had all the channels he had all the channels we didn't have. And I remember being a kid thinking like, oh, when I grow up, when I'm older, like I'm gonna be watching like all of these like sophisticated like movie channels, all of these things. Like I'm gonna have all these channels to watch. Like I'm gonna be so excited because like unlike my cheap parents, I'm gonna shell out for satellite DirecTV. Right? I'm already thinking in these
Fancy
like horrible
Marco,
ways, right? Yeah. But then like now I'm 22. I could never imagine that, because it's just like so much has changed since even like 2005. Like so much has changed.
And there's interesting because there still is that tier of like, well, I was like kind of on the edge. I was like, I feel like I was almost on the cutting edge of like the no more cable like type thing. Because I remember when I was in like sixth or like ninth, I don't remember. When I was young, my family got rid of cable, and it felt like before everyone else was getting rid of cable. Because I remember going to school and everyone was talking about The Walking Dead or whatever thing on Comedy Central. And I'm like, man, come on. And like I felt really out of it, and like I just couldn't watch it, right?
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I was a little bit early on that, and I kind of got the back end of like you need to have cable to watch the things that people are watching, and I think it's really interesting because some things are still like that, like sports. It's hard for me to watch sports because I don't have cable, and like it's very, very rare that a basketball game is on ABC or something like that, on like a network television. So I've definitely had to adjust that a little bit. But yeah, no, I haven't been on cable forever. And it really, there still is that tiered system though of like the cable and not cable. Because when I was younger, we had cable and then we didn't. And I was like, I kind of moved from that like cable to the not cable, like the lower rung, I guess. And but it still feels like that almost with the streaming services. It's just like a different distinction of like it's like you have like everybody's got like Netflix. Everybody's like a lot of people have, not everybody, but a lot of people have Hulu. A lot of people have a couple of these streaming platforms. A lot of people have Disney Plus now.
Right.
But like there is like the second tier, it feels like, of like the people with the HBO Max. Like if you've got like still kind of Disney Plus, like it's like that second, like if you have multiple, like if you have like 5 streaming services, it feels like you're on that like that new level of like like I'm big balling out here,
Yeah, and it's funny because like even all of those, like if you had Amazon Prime, Hulu, Netflix, HBO, and Disney Plus, that's like the big 5, right? Like basically you can count on almost any show being there.
Anything you'd want to watch, anything worth watching.
Yeah, basically anything worth watching. Like you would still probably be paying like half of what cable costs you per month.
Really?
It depends on where you live, but like
what cable
easily you could imagine a cable bill being like $120 a month. You can easily imagine that.
Yeah.
All of those services I just mentioned, I think you could probably get at that for like $65 or $60 a month total, right?
Like that, you bring up such an interesting point because I think it brings up a generational thing of like, some people still have, I think older people still have cable because they've always just had cable, right?
Right.
I remember, but I'm glad that I'm not in that situation where I have to like get rid of, change. Yeah, it's tough to be like older and have things change around you and stuff. But I remember.
Wow, I'm sorry, I have to interrupt you. You just like described the entire ethos of the Republican Party right there. It's tough to be older and have everything change around you. So let's.
Yeah, this is a Fox News podcast, I guess now.
Yeah, I just think it's so funny. Like
when it comes to things like comfort, when it's not things like like human rights or whatever.
Right. Okay. I'm glad we made that distinction. The Wrong Fit is now a political podcast.
It's not a political podcast, and it's definitely not a Republican podcast. God, no. But yeah, so my uncle, he has cable still, and he has cable still, and he watches a lot of movies, and he buys a lot of movies. He doesn't even rent them on like, it's not like he rents them, because it would be more excusable if he like rents them on whatever Amazon Prime, because I do that a lot because like I don't have like there's some things, like some movies I can't watch that are on Amazon Prime. Like I remember last year I watched Shawshank because I hadn't seen it in a while and I just rented it, and I didn't really have any interest in owning it, but I just wanted to watch it. But he like buys DVDs, and he like has cable, and like he'll record things on cable, and like kind of how everyone was living, maybe like 5+ years ago. And I want to like be go in on my uncle. And like everyone has like
go in on him, drag him.
but like I just like I don't know. I felt bad about. I gave him a DVD. I gave him Black Panther, the movie. I think Black Panther came out in 2018, something like that.
Yeah.
And so yeah, shout out to Black Panther. So I gave him that for Christmas. Because I got him on our little family Secret Santa thing. But I almost felt bad like rewarding. Like it's like weird. I almost feel bad like rewarding bad behavior, like bad financial decisions. You know?
Okay, all right, okay. And now you got to stop. Now I got to stop you right there. Okay, there is still like I meant to say this about cable. Like there is still like a valid reason to have cable, and there's still like a good reason to buy physical media. Like physical media is not like cable and physical media.
Do you know
how
much I paid for the Black Panther DVD?
Well, you know, I can't help it if you make irresponsible financial decisions, Eli, that you don't wait for the DVD to get half off. I can't, you can't blame me for that.
The movie came out 3 years ago almost.
If you bought it recently, which you just said you did, yeah. I would not believe you if you told me that you paid $20 for it. I would not believe you. That DVD, if it's a DVD, that thing has to be like $9 like now.
Dude, it was $18 on like anywhere I found on the internet. I don't know. Maybe I phrased that wrong, or like I was going in too much. Like, and it's like really is like I am very sympathetic because it is tough to like adjust to a new media landscape, right?
Right.
Like I did feel kind of like weird. I was like, this DVD is $18, like, and you're gonna watch it. Like I assume you're gonna watch it at least 3 times for this to make financial sense for you to not rent it, right? I don't know if that's true. Like, I don't know how much time, you have to watch DVDs and stuff. Sometimes people just like the novelty of just owning a physical thing. So maybe that's it.
Right.
But I just like, it was just tough because I was like, I can't help but say like, maybe I should give you like a Disney Plus, like 3-month subscription or something like that. Cause like, that's like, I don't know. You can I don't know. It's just weird to me to pay more for like something like that.
This is where it gets really difficult because I actually agree with you. I am a big DVD Blu-ray guy. Like we have like outside my hallway, there's a huge like DVD shelf. It is like just stacked and stacked with DVDs and Blu-rays. Like we still get them occasionally, not as often as we used to, but we still get them occasionally for like movies we really like and shows too.
Yeah,
it's actually really good. You should if like owning individual movies doesn't appeal to you, I do recommend getting physicals of your favorite TV shows because like TV shows are so in flux.
Yeah,
and
where they
like,
go, yeah. And I was thinking about that with The Office, but like I just cannot honestly like if I was thinking about buying like a because it's no longer Netflix and I'm not really interested in buying Peacock, right? I was thinking like maybe I'll just buy like the 9-season bundle and I can get all the special features and all that. But I cannot imagine me throwing a DVD into my DVD player. Like that's just like when I like a lot of times when I watch TV, I'm literally just like, okay, I just made my lunch. Like I've got some break time off work. I'm just going to sit in front of my TV. I'm going to turn on the Xbox and press play on the first thing that comes up,
You do sort of have to imagine yourself like as like a frontierman living in the 1800s when you put in a DVD. I grant you that. You do have to kind of live in your great grandparents' shoes for a little bit, right? I understand that.
Not even that. It's like a ritualistic thing. It feels like to put a DVD into a whatever a DVD player is the word I was looking for. To put a DVD into it feels like a ritual of like I'm going to sit down and watch for a significant period of time, and I've got my ritual ready. I don't know. Like it just does feel the vibes are different.
That is so. I think you're being more poignant than you realize because now you are starting to get into the territory that now media is more disposable and expendable than it's ever been before, ever. And people bring this up a lot with music streaming, but I think we're going to quickly get there with like TV shows and movies too, where instead of music being like crafted, and I'm not like advocating for like specifically like that physical ritual experience. I think music streaming, I think TV streaming and everything has been like ultimately, so far, it has been very good for the consumer. Not in every way, but it's been quite good for the consumer mostly for the past 10 years or so. My fear is that if and when like physical media for music is like essentially dead, like CD sales are very flat, and like there are record sales, but like that's like a niche. Streaming services are not worried about vinyl sales, and they're not worried about CD sales.
Yeah.
DVD and Blu-ray are flat as well, but they're not like totally out for the count yet. But as soon as they are, I worry about companies' propensity to make decisions that are no longer going to be consumer friendly because there are no more alternatives left, right?
I think about that too.
Why, if I were Disney and I see everyone around me doing anti-consumer practices, why would I continue to supply Disney Plus for $7 a month when I can supply it for $7 a month or $5 a month, but I'll tack on like, hey, if you want to watch a movie, it's only 50 cents. Why would you pay $7 to own a movie that you're going to watch once when you can just we can just nickel and dime you every day?
That's interesting. Right? That's really interesting because that you mentioned Disney, which I think is really interesting because my dad was telling, I don't know if you knew this, but my dad grew up in California, and he was telling me about when he went to, like, I'm just transitioning from Disney to Disneyland, where he went to as a kid. I think it's interesting that your example, because when you go, I don't know if you've ever been to Disneyland. I have family that's been to California, so when I was a kid, I went several times.
Yeah, I've been once.
Yes, yep. So you just pay to get in, and then you're in, and you get in line for the rides and all that. But my dad told me that back in the day, which I think is really fascinating, you could get in for free, but each like ride required a token. I think it's just really interesting how they've shifted, like, and you're talking about the opposite shift of like you get in for cheap, but you each like time you use it, there's a cost. And also a fascinating thing too to bring up. I've heard on Peacock, the first 2 seasons of The Office are like included with Peacock, but if you want to have the second or the last 7 seasons, there's an additional cost. Like, that's what I heard. I don't know if that's true yet.
It is. It's, of course it would take like a network provider to start instituting this anti-consumer
because they're
garbage,
cutthroat,
right?
They're cutthroat. Yeah, I mean, NBC's been in the media game since forever. They know how to get their nickel and dime.
Well, and NBC is exactly the kind of company that has been really hosed by the transition from cable to internet streaming, because you have powerhouses like Netflix and Amazon Prime and Hulu and even I'll count Disney Plus as well. Like they are producing like homegrown content that is excellent across all, like, people make fun of Netflix movies and Netflix shows, but like they have produced some excellent work. So has Hulu, so has Disney Plus. Yeah, I mean, they have done every platform I mentioned that have historically not been associated with the cable companies or with networks. I know Disney has, but just stay with me for a second. Like, they have largely not done that kind of anti-consumer behavior, other than just like raising prices and maybe some shows leave or anything, right? Like that, that's always like a hard thing for people to accept, but like that's not like Netflix's fault or Amazon's fault, right?
Yeah.
But you have like NBC entering and HBO now, which HBO has a lot for a little. Yeah. I wonder how long that's gonna last, right? Because I'm telling you, like, what you just told me about The Office that I didn't know, that NBC is pulling that garbage, that is exactly what I would expect from a network that has been hosed by the transition from cable to streaming. And if that catches on, I mean, I'm not going to say that, Netflix has no choice but to start being worse to its consumers. Obviously, all of these companies have a choice to do that.
Yeah.
But what's the incentive for them to do that if everyone else is nickel and diming their consumers? That's just my theory. But the loss of those alternatives, right, like streaming, and all of that, like, could spell disaster for the consumer in the next 10 years, let's say.
Yeah, and let me note that we can put it, we can fact check it in the I'm pretty sure I heard that, but I don't have Peacock, so I don't have any actual experience with it.
Right.
But I'm pretty sure I heard that, it's like a premium fee to get the later seasons of The Office. You just get a taste with the regular subscription. But you mentioned this disposable media and media as a non-physical thing. And do you know what I think is really fascinating that we've been talking a lot about music and movies, and I think it would be and TV. And I think it would be really fascinating to, kind of compare the streaming experiences of all those two. But what I think is really interesting is the disposable experience of fine arts. Because it used to be like, think about it, I think we take this for granted because of how democratized a lot of visual art is now. That you can just pull up a picture of the Mona Lisa on your phone, and you're like, it's not the same as seeing the painting, but it's like you're getting the visual experience, right?
Right.
And back in the day, like, to see the Mona Lisa, you could not see that unless you are a very select group of individuals, right? Like, you can never
Absolutely.
see that. And like, we talk about the Mona Lisa, you can talk about any sort of the Pieta, whatever famous sculpture, and obviously sculptures, you get a very different experience in person than when seeing it visually or on a screen, right? But like, there's so many different art, like fine art, physical art has been so visual art, I should say, has been so democratized that I think it's really interesting, and how disposable it is. Like, if I'm on Google a picture of the Mona Lisa, I can just Google it. It's saved, or like I just see it, and then I don't even have to save it, or I can save it and I'll just delete the picture after I send it to my friend to remark on whatever, I own the Mona Lisa, right? Like, I can pull that up, as long as I have internet access, right? I can pull that up and experience it any time of the day, anywhere in the world that, again, has internet access. Like, I think it's just really interesting how, and I've never seen the Mona Lisa before. I've never been to the Louvre. And it's not, again, I know it's not the same, especially when it comes to sculptures. Like, I saw, yeah, it's just totally different, but it is really fascinating.
Man, you're hitting on like every point that I wanted to make, but like, because you mentioned like democratization of art. I mean, that's exactly what's going on, and it's a good, like, broadly, it is a good thing.
Yeah.
Because like back in the day, you had to own an album and to like listen to it, you had to buy the CD, and the CD takes up space, and like CDs cost $20, and I mean, yeah, I mean, people listen to music. It was on the radio. They could go to parties, whatever, right? But like now, anyone can go and listen to the best albums ever, the music they like. It'll be perfectly catered to them, like algorithmically catered to them, and it's only $5 a month. I mean, if I had to pay $20 for every album I liked, I mean, I'd listen to a lot less music because I just wouldn't want to fork over the $20, right?
And I would listen to a lot of the same music. Like, I know exactly. I just really have vivid memories of my dad having DVD or CDs in his car, right? And like, we listened to the same. I remember he had the Beatles like greatest hits, like volume 1 and 2, I think, something like that.
Right. Yeah.
And we just listened to those over and over again. And I honestly, like, I'm not a huge album person, so maybe that's this, but I could honestly tell you more accurately which songs are on the greatest hits volume 1 and volume 2 more than I could tell you like what's on Rubber Soul, what's on whatever other album, which is just because of that experience of like listening to them. You just had that DVD and you just keep it on, put it on repeat, and you because you don't really see greatest hits. You have top songs, you have like the Spotify top stream songs of a certain artist, but you don't really have like artists don't really do greatest hits DVD or CDs as much,
And I mean, they don't. I mean, there's no reason to.
Yeah,
I mean, if you
maybe remaster stuff, but
yeah, I mean, the Spotify already has like their like starter pack playlists for every artist, right? And that almost overwhelmingly just includes their greatest hits and like fan favorites, right? Like, you don't need to have like, if I wanted to like listen to like the Eagles, right? And they're like an old timer band, right? If it was the I love the Eagles, but I will say that.
Yeah.
If it's the 90s, then, and I want to just get like a taster, right? I would go get like the Eagles' greatest hits, right?
Yeah.
And they do have some. And I think they're on Spotify too. And I think it's really interesting when compilations are on Spotify because like they're just repackaged the same stream, just in a different album cover, right?
Yeah. I think it's really fascinating like when you find like certain songs are just like in 3 different places on like 3 different like the soundtrack and the greatest
You
hits.
think it's interesting. I think it's really annoying and really confusing as a listener, right?
Especially with the analytics, right? Because then you don't know how many times you. Yeah.
Oh my God, dude! I could actually talk about this all day on how the problems that come from Last.fm scrobbling. Like, I love the app, I love using it, but it takes maintenance to like make sure everything is like going okay. But that would be a very boring podcast if all I did was talk about Last.fm.
But you got to get it together, man.
You got to get it together, yeah. But anyway, but now today, if I wanted to get like a gist of the Eagles and not like just go through them album by album, because sometimes you don't want to go through them album by album because that may not be representative of who the band is. Spotify has like, this is the Eagles, and I could just click it and it's all their greatest hits, all the fan favorites, all of the best deep cuts, and I can just listen to that and I can decide whether or not the Eagles are for me. All of that is good. I will not say, like, as much as I probably are coming across as like I'm pro physical media, I think for music especially, like, there's almost no argument in favor of like CDs right now.
Especially also environmental consciousness too. I didn't even.
Oh, of course. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. But like vinyl records, like that's like a cool, like fun thing. That's like a niche hobby more than anything.
Collections.
For how popular they are, it still is more of a niche thing. But for, bringing it back to disposability, so democratization, right? Like I said, like more people are listening to music. People are listening to music now, like more than ever, like for more of a percentage of the time per day than they ever did before. True. I think all of that is great.
Yeah.
When we bring it back to disposability, because you just mentioned like you don't want the ritual of like putting in a DVD and you just want something to watch while you're eating. Yeah. I mean, how many times are you just like, I just want something on in the background, and you just go to YouTube and you start listening to 24-hour like chill beats, right?
Yeah.
Because you just want some nonsense to like keep you from thinking thoughts, right?
True.
And like that
true,
just
true.
makes, but like you don't make a connection to the artists or the art or the music. You don't make a connection to anything, and that music is disposable. And the TV shows are quickly like that could get there too. Like it's just disposable content. Sure. As opposed to something you make a connection with. Because I can tell you that if you were getting up every 6 episodes to switch out the DVD for The Office, like I actually think you might get more of a special connection with the show, as like dumb as that sounds. I actually think that's possible.
Yeah, I believe it. And I believe it. And I think that I think what would happen is I just would watch less of The Office, because why I watched it, like how I watch The Office is, it's, nonsense I can put on the television and just turn my brain off to, and I've seen it a million times, that's just kind of the thought process of it. But yeah, no, I think that, I think it's interesting the distinctions we made between movies, TV, and music, especially just like the distinction between the audio visual and just the audio, with music. And I think it's interesting because like we've been talking about, like we had a very different discussion when we were talking about streaming services with movies and TV, where it's like, okay, you've got the Peacocks, which is just like the more specialized, and like you've got Disney Plus, which a lot of people have, and Netflix, which a lot of people have, and then whatever. With music, like, I mean, there are better streamings. As someone who does not have a particularly good streaming service, I have YouTube Music, which is not. It's not horrible. It's got all the songs you need, but it's not.
What?
Yeah.
How did I not know this? What?
I don't know.
What?
Yeah. So this might be something good to like as almost like a follow up in our previous discussion talking about how we listen to music, because I think the one thing how I listen to new music, one thing that has prevented me from like really listening to new music is the fact that and they've gotten better with it in the past year. I think YouTube has of cultivating playlists, but they just aren't as good at cultivating playlists. Like honestly, same songs are on YouTube Music and Spotify, so it's hard for me to justify getting my own Spotify, because right now I'm on my parents' YouTube Music plan because
that makes sense.
Yeah, no. Okay. So and it's really cheap for a family thing, and also like an added bonus is I get YouTube Premium, which allows me. I watch a lot of YouTube, so it allows me to turn off my screen and still listen to the YouTube audio, which is very nice.
That is a serious plus.
Yeah, it's a game changer for sure. Because I just like get I would just watch a lot of YouTube. But anyway, it's not like there's no daylight between the music streaming services. There is. Like Spotify, I think, is a very cultivated, nice experience. Apple Music, from what I understand, is a little bit less so. And then YouTube Music is even, less cultivated experience, less premium feeling experience, right? At the end of the day, if you're someone who knows what they want to listen to, which, I don't think I would classify myself as, but I think that a lot of people in my family are people who know music. And like my parents are older, so they're not really looking for new music. My brother, he's musical. Like he's very in touch with music. Like he's a musician, so he knows what he's looking for. I don't really fall under that category of like, I know what I want to listen to. But just say theoretically, if you do, then any music platform really is the same. Like you can get, I can find music on YouTube Music as easily as I can find it. There's really never been a time where I haven't found something that's on a different streaming platform, except for one time the YouTube Music was missing some of the Weeknd's, his discography, and it popped up like a week later, and I think it was literally just a rights error that they like accidentally forgot to like up the contract or whatever.
That is interesting. Again, man, this conversation, like we could talk about this all day because like there are so many, like there are so many.
I think we could talk about it all day because we spend all day consuming,
just like doing
media.
Nothing, just doing this. Yeah, like we have branched off like so many parts of the conversation, and I'm about to do it again because you mentioned like The Office, right? You can only watch that on Peacock, like all the Netflix shows you can only watch it on Netflix. Music doesn't have that, at least not right now. And I will say this right now, like it doesn't have it anymore because if you remember, and I'm sure you do, like back in like 2015, 2016, that was the big thing that was brewing. Like, is there going to be a streaming war between like the exclusives and everything? Because Taylor Swift,
T-Swift
started that. Like I remember that it was 2014, and she was like, "Nope, no 1989. You can't listen to it if you didn't buy it or whatever, right?" Because she was trying to prove a point to Spotify and everything. And oh my God, we could talk about that all day if we wanted to. Like that was just like that was such a cultural moment.
Yeah, it was.
And shout out 1989, her best album. But during that time period, you had Taylor Swift pulling her stuff from streaming, and I think for a while, like she only had it on Tidal because that's where she thought that like Tidal was like a fairer place for artists and everything. That was like the whole thing, right? Like Beyonce did it, like Drake didn't give Kanye did it. Drake didn't release Views until like a few months after on Spotify. Like you could only listen to it on Apple Music. Like that was a big thing for a while, and then it just kind of faded away. Like Drake doesn't do exclusives anymore. Beyonce put Lemonade on Spotify like last year or 2 years. I don't remember. Time is just a circle now, but like all of that is gone. And that's really interesting because I think that's the kind of thing that like, I think consumers didn't tolerate it or it just didn't make a difference in their purchasing behavior one way or the other.
So I think, just an interesting anecdote. I remember with 444, the Jay-Z album that was for a while only on Tidal. I remember I got it on Google Music, which is now YouTube Music. I got it on Google Music way before a lot of my friends did, which was like so rare. Like it's like, and honestly, I think what it was just there must have been some sort of internal decision where it's like, Google Music is at that time and still is so irrelevant that no one like they didn't really care about like, we can give it to Google Music, like whatever, we can make some money there, but besides that, everyone who's really listening to music is going to be has to get Tidal, right? Right. But and it's so weird that now I don't even know if Tidal's still a thing, but I remember for a while after.
It is. Yeah, it definitely is. Yeah.
Well, their only selling point now is like we have like super good quality streaming. Like I don't even know. I don't know anything about music quality really. Yeah, it says the person who doesn't edit the podcast. But
I don't know anything about it. Like, honestly, when I edit the podcast, it's a miracle that it sounds the way it does because I don't know anything about audio engineering. All I do is just cut stuff. That's all I do.
It's crazy. Like the people who know like so much about it. But anyway, So I think that part of it. So I remember seeing these statistics of like in 2016, I think it was the most pirated album was. The Life of Pablo, which like was because it was only on Tidal for a short period of time, or like Lemonade because on that year like Lemonade was one of the top because like it was only on Tidal for that period of time, and I think there's obviously a parallel with TV and movies. Like I remember more TV. There's a parallel of like, you know, when Game of Thrones was coming out, Game of Thrones was the most pirated thing. And when The Mandalorian is coming out this year, I think this year The Mandalorian was the top illegally downloaded thing ever for the year. And so I just think I don't know, it is fascinating just to see, like, I think part of it is just it's so easy to illegally download music. I remember when I was a wee lad and I didn't have streaming services and I didn't have money to buy streaming services. I illegally downloaded a fair amount of music. And like, obviously I didn't feel good about it. Obviously, like, I'm older now and I would always like support the artist. That's a big thing for me.
Right.
And anyway, and you know, also with Spotify, it's like, you know, some of the way where they make the algorithm, it's like, you're not like, it's a lot of the money. It's not very artist friendly. Like T.W.F was a bit, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know as much about it. I don't know as much about it as, like, you know, my brother was telling me a lot about it, and it's very fascinating to hear from him. Yeah, I think it's just very different the way that people stream music as opposed to movies and TV. And but yeah, no, and I'm glad that like you said, it looked like we were going to get that kind of thing where it's like, you know, exclusives, and you have to buy a bunch of music. If you want to listen to all the music, you have to buy a bunch of streaming services or whatnot. And I'm just glad that that's not really the way it found out. It's unfortunate the reason why that is because everyone was not supporting artists and illegally downloading their music. But it is what it is, and I'm glad that it is more democratized, like you said. I mean,
honestly, like there's good and bad things, right? Like I want to support the artist. I don't think the way it currently is enough for that, but mm-hmm. I just think that problem would be way worse if there were like major like record label exclusive streaming deals, right? Like I think that problem would be so much worse than it currently is with like the pirating and like artists not getting like what they deserve. Mm-hmm. And I think for now, like they're like the right decisions have been made to make sure that like pretty much evenly across all these platforms, the music has stayed the same. Mm-hmm. And what are the selling points have been like very consumer friendly things, right? Like bundles, like Spotify. Mm-hmm. Like if you have a Spotify student, you get Hulu and Showtime. That's like a really big draw, right?
Oh yeah, of course. And yeah.
It's consumer friendly stuff, and also just stuff like, you know, the user experience. Who has a better user experience? Like YouTube. Like I actually have experience with all of these platforms. I did Apple Music because for some reason, like Scorpion was not an exclusive album, but for some reason it was late on Spotify, like a couple of hours late. So I was like, I can't wait. I gotta listen. So I downloaded Apple Music, got the free trial, and then I toyed around with that too. Yeah. I'm not an Apple person, but I did give it an honest shot. I found the experience to be a little janky.
So you had Apple. I'd never heard that before. You had Apple Music on your Samsung phone.
Yes.
Wow. That's crazy.
To be fair to Apple, they make it available to download for everybody. You don't have to have an iPhone to use Apple Music. So, you know, I gave it a shot just to listen to Scorpion, but I did give it a shot. I was interested in it. I found the whole thing to be a little bit too Apple-y for my preference, but I had Tidal just to listen to The Life of Pablo back when I was a senior in high school. I got the 3-month trial. It was sick.
What a time to be alive.
I quite liked the Tidal interface. It was kind of weird, but I liked it. I remember thinking about switching over to that or even just continuing to pay for it, but it was like $10 a month, and you know, it wasn't. It's actually
$10 a month,
I think it was like 15. I think it was like 15. I don't remember. I mean, Spotify's 10, and I pay for Spotify right now, so shows what I know, right? Hello, The Wrong Fit listeners. Marco here. Just popping in to give a quick content warning for this last section of the podcast. In this section, we're going to be discussing topics about food, sugary sweets, fast food, stuff like that. And we dip a little bit into topics like overeating, but we do not get into discussion about things like food disorders or anything similar to that. If anything you just heard is the kind of content that you don't want to listen to, go ahead and stop listening because this is the last section of the podcast. Otherwise, enjoy the show. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Eli from The Wrong Fit. Happy birthday to you. Hey, happy birthday, Eli.
Thank you, man. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's so funny because I feel so awkward with people telling me like the happy birthday thing. You know, I don't know if you got this, but like when I was a kid, I just have such vivid memories of sitting at the head of my like my kiddie table like with my candles right in front of me, like my six
Right.
candles in front of me on my Clues cake or whatever. And just like I just very vividly remember just like sitting there while all my family members were singing happy birthday and just having no idea what to do, even at a young age when you're like not super socially conscious. I was like what do I do with my hands, where do I look, like who do I smile at, like do I smile, all those questions were running through my head.
Did you ever have like that older cousin like just push your head into the cake, for a good old fashioned mordida?
A very funny anecdote actually is when I was 1 year old. Like this is pretty funny. How do I say this? No one pushed me into the cake, but my head did manage to find its way into the cake. Like when I was one, this is like a really funny picture of me when I was a kid, and my mom still has it and holds it over my head. Is like was picture of me when I was 1 year old, and I wish they had the video because it sounds hilarious and like it's weird because like I'm embarrassed by it. But when you're 1 year old, like you're not really you're just some kid. Right. But anyway, so I when I was one, yeah, like my parents like had the candles going and were singing. And at the end of the song, like just like at the very end of the song, when the last two you or whatever, or the many more or whatever, I like just went face planted into the freaking cake and just went to town on that boy. And granted,
Oh my God.
I know I was a monster. I was an animal, man. And granted, I was 1 year old, but seriously, I was like, man, this boy needs to learn some manners. That's me now saying that to me then. But yeah, this year was actually a really fascinating one. Obviously, it's fascinating because I didn't really see any family. My parents came up, so I was able to see my mom and dad, which was really nice. So basically, my New Year's was, or my New Year's, my New Year of my life, which was this past week. Yeah.
Right.
If you didn't get it from the singing, this week I turned 22, which is just going to be just a fantastic age to be. Kind of a weird age, like not really a significant age completely, but I am 22. I turned 22 this Monday. And so, yeah, I saw my parents and I saw my girlfriend and like her roommates that she like lives with that are our friends. And we did like a very like tiny thing with them. So it was very different birthday already, but a really fascinating fact is actually, so when we had this like kind of broaching from this, awkward birthday song anecdote, is that, so this year is the first time on my birthday, I got to also sing happy birthday. It wasn't just people singing at me. I was also joining in because like kind of super random fact is my girlfriend and I have the exact same birthday.
What?
Yeah. So she was born. So she's 2 years younger than me. So she just turned 20. She was born like January 11th, 2001. I was born January 11th, 1999. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. People are going to steal my identity. I think it's pretty safe on my Facebook. But anyway, exactly 2 years apart, and almost like down to the hour, which is pretty freaky. So we have the same sign too, which is if you're into that.
Don't be into that.
That's the wrong fit take on it. So this is the first year where which was really nice actually, because like I said, it's super awkward. The first year I didn't just have to sit there while people were singing happy birthday to you. She got to sing it to me and I got to sing it to her. So it was this whole little back and forth, which was really nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's an interesting anecdote about my birthday. On the subject of cake, which there was a lot of, because we have fantastic friends, which is like really nice. Like we're really lucky to have the friends that we have here. And obviously like, with COVID, the circle is super small. So we're kind of like stuck with the roommate group, and her friends are my friends. So it all works out really well. They were so nice. Like they made us both cake, which was just fantastic. Like I think it was fantastic for one that they made us cake. But the fact that they made like each of us one individually was super special too. Super nice of them, like fantastic people. Shout out to them. But anyway, it was nice and it was fantastic. But I got stuck in this situation on my birthday. And I think that everyone gets in this situation kind of with birthdays and Christmas. And, with me having my birthday so close to Christmas, there's a little bit of overlap of like, you're just kind of stuck with a lot of sweet things and you don't know what to do with them. So that's kind of the situation I found myself on my birthday. Was just like my parents came by, they bought us Voodoo Donuts, which was really fantastic and awesome and tasty. But Voodoo Donuts, I don't know if you're familiar, but it's a chain. I think it's a chain in Austin, here in Austin, and I think it's like elsewhere, obviously too. It's a chain. They're just like really elaborate donuts that are very cakey, thick donuts.
Yeah, they have a lot of crazy donuts. I had when I lived at my old apartment that got torn down. For a year there was a guy that was living there that worked like part-time at Voodoo. So he would come every week, like on Friday, and he would leave just leftovers and stuff that he could just get for free. And it's just the weird. It's I'm talking like donuts with Fruit Loops on them, like peanut butter donuts shaped in like a phallic symbol, and all these other things, like tons and tons of donuts. And I mean, it was awesome. It was great to have him around, right? But I totally get the thing with Voodoo. They're very sweet and they're very elaborate and they're really kooky.
They're really premium, they're really premium, and that's why my parents got it, because it was it's my birthday, it was a special occasion, whatever.
Absolutely.
So start out with my parents. Second was the birthday cake from my roommates. Third, the next day, Tuesday, the day after my birthday, I got cookie. This one was super unexpected and fantastic and really nice. I got T.W.F Treats, which is an Austin, I think it's Austin cookie company. Maybe it's not just Austin. I don't know where things are, but T.W.F, we got T.W.F Treats. I got T.W.F Treats from my work, which was really nice of them to send over a few T.W.F Treats, really super considerate, super unexpected. Yeah. So anyway, I'm in this situation, and if anyone who was involved with any of these gifts of sweets, I don't want to give them the wrong idea. Because I very much
the disclaimer.
The disclaimer is I very much thoroughly enjoyed each and every one of those sweets. Was fantastic, and it was so fantastic and decadent and good, and I felt like I was on cloud nine with each and every one of those, trying it, because it was all fantastic. T.W.F Treats is premium, Voodoo Donuts is premium, and my friend's cake was beyond premium. It was so good, homemade, totally and it was specialized for us, which was so fantastic and amazing and everything. But I did get into this situation, and also coming off of the Christmas season, where I don't know what you guys do for your family, but my family gives us cookies and sweets and stuff like that. So I'm just in this situation this week, and it's a situation that I think is pretty common, and I think the only reason I'm thinking about it is because it's so extreme right now with the fact that, it's my birthday, it's Christmas, and I'm older, but I just have a surplus of sweetness in my life, almost a surplus of decadence and super sweet things. And I definitely found myself as an adult, my relationship with sweets and sugar and pastries and all this special treat type food. I've definitely seen my relationship with it change from when I was a kid to now, because when I was a kid, I had a major sweet tooth of I'll eat, you put it in front of my face and it has sugar in it and it will be gone before you can, put down the plate fully. Right.
Yeah.
I just told you that anecdote about when I was a kid and I couldn't even wait to blow out the candles. I just face planted right in there. Now that you're older, I don't know what it is, but I felt so guilty. And I think it also goes back to being quarantined, being sedentary, and being health conscious. I go back to just thinking I felt guilty all the time eating each of those things. I was when I got the cake, even though it was my cake, I was just oh no, I'll have this a super small slice. And with the donut, I only ate half the donut. In the first, I saved it. Obviously, I don't waste food, but I only ate half the donut in the sitting. The T.W.F Treats, I shared them with my brother and my girlfriend and stuff. And obviously these were the correct call health wise for sure, but definitely not the call I would have made had I been a few years younger, right? And it's just really been interesting for me to change my perspective on food, and I just wonder we do associate sweets with children, and I never thought I would lose my like sweet tooth or whatever it is, whatever you want to call it. But I've definitely seen like a shift in like my appetites towards sweets. And I was wondering if you like had the similar experience, because I know me and Marco, we be talking about food a lot, mostly Taco Bell, but we'll talk about anything, you know.
My dad has this really funny like recurring thing, this joke. I think that he picked up from like a friend of his or something, but it's like if you leave like two like people of like Mexican descent just like in a room long enough, they are just gonna talk about food, and like that's all they do. Like you just walk in on some Mexican dude, he's just eating and he's just talking about food with his compas, you know, and you count, you've got the Mexican ancestry.
I got the blood, yeah.
You're there with me, you know, and we just be talking about food, you know.
Like, we do be talking about food. Like I'm surprised, honestly, on the podcast we've talked a lot about like experiences, I guess, if you want to talk about like music, TV, and like stuff like that in broad terms. But we haven't talked a lot about like reviewing food as much. We had the fried chicken. That was fantastic.
I was about to say, did you just ignore the like the 3 hours we spent talking about fried chicken? But that has been the extent, and that is surprising. I think we're not there because we like a lot of the food we tend to talk about tends to be like food from out, and I mean you could still get like takeout and everything, but like it just hasn't been. So to get to your point, like that's really interesting what you said about being older and the sweets and everything. This is like one of those side effects of being older, and as you grow, right, suddenly like the extremes of everything, like they don't appeal to you, and sometimes like they can legitimately just like damage your body in a way that you don't want,
and you feel the damage. You start to feel like heartburn and whatever, you know?
Yeah. When you're a kid, like you don't think twice about eating like 5 donuts and then going to like go play with your mates. Just like playing basketball for like 10 hours straight, and like your joints are fine and your stomach is fine. Everything is just fine. Like your body just handles it, right? When you're like, as soon as you turn like 20, like none of those, like all of those things start to appeal less and less to you. Obviously, like your mileage may vary. Everyone's different. But like, I think broadly, I think people are less interested, particularly in like overeating or like eating things that are very sweet, very salty, very spicy.
Yeah.
Very, you know, I think that tends to wane a little bit. That could be the result of a lot of things. It's cultural, it's societal, it's evolutionary, it's biological. Like there are a lot of things there. I think what you've got is a side effect of that. And I also think, you know, it's like your tastes are starting to like converge on just like a handful of things that that you just prefer. I have noticed, so I mentioned last week that I had, well, actually 2 episodes ago, I mentioned that I had food poisoning, and I think I have pretty much fully recovered from it. And what I mean by that is I was not dealing with symptoms for a month. It was more just like my cravings were different, my appetite was different, like a lot of things were different.
Yeah.
Even after I felt good and I was like good enough to record the podcast and I was eating normally and everything. Like I think now, like my cravings and my appetites are like pretty much where they were before. What's different is that like sweet foods have like lost a lot of appeal to my taste buds. Yeah. And this is a thing that I've been dealing with that I've had like kind of up and down for a while. I can like get to points, especially if I'm like in a period of my life where I'm very health conscious, I can just get to a point where like the idea of eating ice cream, for example, like repulses me because it's so sweet and excessive and everything. Like even in moderation, even in everything, like I just don't want it anywhere near me. Obviously, like I go through like phases of that, like in and out, but broadly right now, like sweet foods don't appeal to me, but like salty foods and savory foods I really like. But like sweets are just appealing to me less and less. I am way less interested in like elaborate like sundaes or whatever that you would get at like on Amy's ice cream. Shout out Amy's ice cream in Austin. I don't know if that's an Austin only place. I don't know where places are, but shout out Amy's.
I don't know where places are.
I don't know where they are. Who knows where they are, right? But shout out Amy's. But like I am less and less interested in stuff like that, and more interested in like wings. It's just wings.
I like how you shouted out Amy's, and then you were like, I'm not really interested in that anymore.
Shout out Amy's. I'll never step in there again.
So you're more interested in like a different, and I get this too. I'm more interested in a different kind of carbohydrate now. I think, And you mentioned also like kind of backtrack to the more broader discussion of like changing bodies. But like, like
just the way you said it.
Like I feel like I'm beginning like a middle school sex ed video right now. But no.
Oh man, the wrong fit. We'll go to the company conventions. Send us to your middle school.
Send us to your middle school, man.
We'll explain the miracle of life and everything. We'll be right there.
We'll get to hit the whole nine. But yeah, what I was gonna say is that you and I, like, you know, we be having we're like 20 somethings, you know, like we're young men, and but we be having the bodies of an old man sometimes. It feels like, because like, you know, like with me, like I've got back issues and I've got like some gastrointestinal issues sometimes too. And I know you sometimes, like on occasion, have gastrointestinal issues, and I know, like,
thanks for that, Eli.
I mean, like we talked about, like I don't know your health history, but I do know that you had food poisoning, and like we all have food poisoning, and you know, it's just like part of, like maybe you don't have any particular more than anyone else, but I do know that you know, like you have some like you know, backbone issues as well, right? And everyone, like, everyone, I don't know, I just feel like I'd be having an old person body, because I'd be having scoliosis, I'd be like limping and whatever. I mean, I definitely, like, going to like to the more narrow point about changing taste. I think that you're right. But not always, because you said your taste starts to narrow as you get older, and I don't think I'm quite there yet. Like, where I'm like, I like what I like, and I'm not going to try something new. I feel like I'm like, when I was super young, like I was super picky. Now I'm like super not picky. I would hope I would consider myself not picky.
Well, I guess I didn't mean it that way. I guess I meant more like, you tend to, like, you have a broader appreciation for more things, right? Mm-hmm. Because like you're older, like you're more learned, whatever that means, right? Like,
whatever that means.
Well, I mean, you're a kid, like you just said it right now, like you were picky when you were a kid. I when I was a kid, I swore up and down that I hated Dr. Pepper. Okay. I never tried Dr. Pepper, but I just told people that I hated it, right? Until I actually tried it, like when I was 15, and I was like, "Oh, this is great."
What's wrong with Dr. Brain juice, that caffeine, man, that'll get you.
So it's just like, but as you get older, like you start to, like, your brain starts to prefer like walking down the same paths that it always does.
Yeah.
Because that is like more comforting for your brain, like for your neurology. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean that you can't try new things. It doesn't mean that like you will no longer appreciate new things. But I guess I just mean that, like, you're gonna, more often than not, you're gonna start to prefer the stuff that you know you like, and maybe trying out variations of that. Mm-hmm. But you could still have that broader appreciation that comes from being an adult. You know, like you know, an adult that wants to experience the world. Like, you could still have that appreciation. But at the end of the day, like, you're gonna want to go back to the things that you know you like, and those extremes are going to start to be less and less appealing to you. At the very least, like the sugary extremes. I don't know what it is, but like I
think the sugary extremes for sure. I think it's really interesting, like the psychological point of, like, you know, comfort food being something that, like, you know and love, and you can keep on going back to for it. Because I've heard that. I never heard about that about food. It makes sense. I guess I probably have, but maybe not like, you know, as elaborate as you just laid it out. But I definitely have heard that a lot about, like, TV shows of, like, you know, part of the reason why young people watch a lot of, like, the same show over and over again is, like, kind of like a comfort thing, kind of like an anxiety reaction kind of thing, which I think is super fascinating. But anyway, you know, I think it's, so what I've heard is yes to the sweets. At least this is what I've heard from my adult people in my life. But when you're older, actually, as you start to lose your sense of taste, as you do when you're older, apparently, which is just fantastic to look forward to, you know. But when you do start to lose your taste, I've heard that older people are more open to spicier food, because they kind of want to just, like, they don't really taste as much anymore, so they just want to like I can't think of a better way to say this, but they want to feel something, you know, like they want to get the spice, you know, get their food, get a more taste from their food. But at least that's what I've heard. But I think generally about the sweets, like across the board, everyone I know, like, you don't eat as much sweets as a kid. And if you do, then, like, you are, you know, health concerns, like, you're kind of in for a little bit of health concerns, unfortunately. Like, it's kind of part of it. And like, it's part of it, like, on the micro level, you can talk about, like, oh man, my stomach is killing me because I just ate like an entire roll of Oreos or whatever
Right.
whatever you want to, whatever your indulgence
I've
is.
been there.
Everyone's been there, and it's okay, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
So that's the
No,
micro
totally.
level. But on the macro level, you got like certain complications that from like they come up, and I don't know anything about health, but I just know that like you can get certain complications from overeating, like especially sugary stuff. Like I know that.
Oh yeah.
Like my high cholesterol, I have that in my family, and like heart disease in my family, and like those are things that you kind of got to look out for more when you're adult. But when you're a kid, it's just like, oh yeah, go crazy.
See, but I don't know that that's where you're coming from. Like obviously, like you did mention at the start, like health considerations, but I don't know that that's really most of what you're saying. I think you're getting at when you told that story. I think you're getting at you're just genuinely less interested in the sweets and the desserts. Like you'll have them on a special occasion. Like you might have them maybe at the end of the day, with a glass of milk or something, get you to bed, get in your jammies, go to bed, read a book, right? But that is not something that calls your attention like it used to when you were a kid. Am I getting that right?
No, you're 100% right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And well, you're 50% right. Because I think it's both.
Okay.
I do think it's both of like, I think it's partially like, yeah, I'm just not into it as much anymore. I don't need it like when you're a kid. Because I think as a kid, you're kind of like, you're a less, not to, down, if anyone's younger than me listening to this, not to downplay your position, but like you have less sophisticated everything. Like
if you're younger than 22, you're really dumb.
Get out of here.
That's what Eli says.
No, but it's like when you're like, I'm not talking about like, less than 22. I'm talking about like when you're 12 or 10 and like you don't have a sophisticated enjoyment of things. Is like it's just yum and yuck. Like in philosophy we've talked about this a lot. In biology they talk about this a lot of like single-celled organisms. Like the only volition they have is kind of just like, this is good, this feels good, this feels bad, like I need this or I don't need this. And it's yum and yuck is like the basic like putting things down to it. And when you're a kid, it's not quite just like yes and no, yum and yuck. Although you could probably argue that everything if you distill it down into its simplest form is just yum and yuck. But anyway, when you're a kid, you don't have as sophisticated, complex desires. So the very simple desire of like, let me put some sugar in my belly and make my brain go zoom. That's like really what your existence comes down to a bit. But now I think that, so I think you're right on that end of like, it's just not as much a desire for me. There's some other like exterior things that are causing that to be the case. But I do think it's a little bit the health, because it's not just like, there's part of me is like, I don't really want to do this. But also part of me is I feel guilty for doing this. And the guilt is coming from the health. Because, I don't feel guilty about, I might not want it or I might not need it as much. I might not like it as much. But I don't feel guilty about eating something. I wouldn't feel guilty about it if it wasn't for the health concerns, And there is definitely a sense of guilt. Like I heated up the second half of my donut today. And that was the first thing I ate today. And I was like, "Oh man, I am garbage," Like,
well, let me ask you this: Do you feel guilty? Let's bring it to the other extreme. Like when you go to your favorite restaurant, like let's say it's like a burger joint, and you order like your favorite burger with a large fry and a drink. Like, do you feel guilty after eating that?
Yeah, no, yes and no. I don't anymore. I had to like. I have to like explain that a bit. It's because I used to get burgers. Like I used to have a horrible diet, like eating red meat like 3 times a week.
Times a week.
eating burgers 3 times a week, like the worst.
Oh, okay.
Type of
I was like, well,
meat.
I eat a lot of red meat. I don't know. It's way more than 3 times a week.
I've gotten really good about once I cut out burgers a little bit, like and not totally, just a little bit. Like I've definitely minimized my red meat consumption like significantly. Right.
That's good. Yeah.
I used to like the reason why I don't eat 3 burgers a week is because I started feeling guilty and I started feeling healthy, like less healthy, like less good. After eating my 3rd burger of the week, I started slowing down a bit and I was like, man, that is not really where I want to be physically. And I'm in good physical shape and everything. It's just like the positives and negatives are kind of like lining themselves up to a point where like I don't want that 3rd burger of the week, or even maybe that 1st burger of the week sometimes. So yeah, I guess it's not like I've never felt that before, but right now, if I were to get a burger in front of me, I would not feel guilty about getting a burger and a Coke, or even getting a burger and a shake, like, on a special occasion.
Well, see, okay. The only reason I ask is because, because you brought you bringing up the health consideration. I like there's no denying it, right? Like ice cream and all these like sugary sweets are unhealthy, burgers are unhealthy, like wings are unhealthy, all that, there's no question about that. I don't think it's a very interesting conversation. I don't eat sweets because I think they're unhealthy. That's not that interesting, right? Like we all know that. Yeah. I think what's more interesting is what is happening in your brain that, like, you came to me with this thesis about being an adult versus being a kid. I'm sorry, I have to take you to task because you're bringing, and that's okay, right? Like, you're bringing it to health, which I appreciate. We could all use a checkup. Like, the reason why I bring up guilt is because I think that's closer to the conversation that I think we should be having. Because, like, I know that I feel like physically, like, worse after eating a lot of food that is, like, broadly considered unhealthy, right? Because it does affect your body chemistry and everything, right?
Yes.
I can tell you that I felt like eons better when I know that my diet, like, consisted of fewer of those bad foods, right? But at the end of the day, when it comes to sweets, like, I wouldn't want to eat a bowl of ice cream, partly because it's unhealthy, but the other half is that, like, I don't have the appetite for this. I feel, I mean, guilt is not the right word, but I just feel, childish.
Yeah.
And there's a real, like, there's, like, the societal norm that's like, when you're an adult, act like an adult. But then there's like the backlash to that, where you have, like, people our age, like, telling you to embrace your inner child and everything, and, like, that being a child is not a bad thing. And of course it's not a bad thing, but it's like, I kind of operate, like, in the middle there. I'm a centrist in that regard. I tend to think that in some cases it's good, in some cases it's bad to, like, be on both of those, right? I think that just goes with my philosophy, right? Just be a moderate on everything, right? It's totally how I feel about. Yeah. Anyway,
progressive king Marco Guajardo.
so I kind of want to tread lightly here when I say that I feel childish eating like sweets. Because I just think it's not something that I should be doing at my advanced age of 22, close to death. And so, but yeah, like, it's difficult, right? But by that same token, put a plate of, like, 10 wings in front of me with fries and a drink, yes, I know it's unhealthy. I will probably not feel that great in general after eating it, but I don't feel childish. Like, I don't feel like that. And is that hypocritical? Do children eat, like, lots of fast food? I mean, probably. Should adults eat less fast food? Yeah. But I just think there's something about sweets that is different, at least to me. And I think to you too.
No, for me. Yeah. For me too. Yeah. You're right. Cause it is all societal, but, like, and maybe it's a hypocritical. I don't even know if that's the word I'd use, but, like, it is different. Cause, like, when I eat McDonald's or, like, something like that, well, I guess McDonald's is a bad example because they do kind of, like, market to kids. But, like, let's say like a Freebirds burrito or a Buffalo Wild Wings, which definitely markets itself to older, like, generally more masculine population, right? At least, like, kind of the general vibe I get. I don't know. Like,
right.
It's just different, like, societally to get there's almost something manly about getting, like, down in 10 wings and, like, being a man. Like, I remember when I was a kid, like, this, like, really funny story from high school. Like, me and my 3 friends accidentally somehow ordered 50 wings for the 3 of us.
Excellent.
And we downed them all, and we felt horrible, but we felt really proud and masculine about it.
That's a normal serving of wings. I could eat that. What's that, like, 16, 17 wings per person or something like that?
I don't know. Maybe it was more.
That's a lot of wings, dog.
Yeah, that was a lot. Like, I was like, that was too much, and we felt horrible. But we were really proud of it. Like, it was weird. Like, we were, like, I think we posted on social media of, like, just ate 50 wings with my boys. Something like really toxic like that.
There's a really interesting study that who knows if it's true or not, but, like, I read about it a while back that it was, like, men tend to eat, like, overeat in front of women because they think it impresses women.
Well,
I don't know if that's true, but I think.
Well, just on that quick, like, overeat and overdrink, I think, in front of women. Like those both, I see both. I don't know if I don't have any analytical, empirical data, whatever, to back it up. But in my, experience, I feel like I see, my male friends overeat and overdrink. I don't know, maybe not to impress women with the overdrinking, maybe also to like, make them confident or like, get them loose, or I don't know. But I think that is fascinating. It's like I'm a man who can take my drink and I can take my food. Like that's both. I mean, I hear that taking the drink, like that's such like a toxic masculinity thing of like, I can drink straight vodka and like whatever. I don't know.
And I mean, we should. I mean, yeah. I mean, you've been mentioning it. We should definitely clarify. Like none of these things are like good behavior that we're trying to model onto people. No. I do want to say that like it is probably broadly like an extension of like posturing and like peacocking, like that comes from like evolutionary like mechanisms. I am not a biology person, so please, if I'm wrong, please be kind on me. But I tend to think that's just an extension of like our evolutionary instincts to like be perceived as like, I don't know, like a person who's very fertile, Yeah. And I think that extends over to today. I think it can broadly be harmless, like especially when it comes to just like a couple of guys overeating and like they're sharing about it on social media. I don't think that like harms anybody other than your bodies, intestines, right? Yeah. Yeah, but the overdrinking thing certainly can be a really big deal and a really big problem. But I mean, I think three dude bros eating 50 wings. I mean, I can name worse examples of toxic masculinity.
Of course. Yeah. I just use that broadly, but no, I get you. And I use that to juxtapose that, which I would we were totally gung ho about being toxic masculinity about that. Whereas I don't think we would ever post a similar thing about like we just ate like I don't know what the equivalent amount of Oreos would be like, but like let's say we ate 50 Oreos like. We would never post that on social media and be super proud and masculine about it.
Because there's something about sugar that makes you feel like less of an adult. I mean, forget about the gender thing now. Like, I think it just makes you feel like less of an adult,
When you eat 50 wings, it's an accomplishment. When you eat 50 Oreos, it's like you have zero self-control. And like, that's not an attractive trait, I think.
That's interesting. Oh boy. Like we're getting deep. Like we're getting in there deep, man. The wrong fit. Philosophy, like the philosophy club. Oh man, look at us. Hey, you're the philosophy. You are the philosophy major. That's right. Oh my god. Sorry, I forget which of your majors is your current and which one is not your current. So do you need 32 gigabytes of RAM to run your philosophy software?
I need 32 gigabytes of. I wish I had 32 gigabytes extra RAM up here. That's really what I need.
He's pointing to his head.
Pointing to his head for anyone listening to this. For everyone listening to this.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. So I wish I had like 32 gigabytes extra brain RAM. But no, I don't need 32 gigabytes to read my PDF of Kant or whatever.
Oh man.
For me, it feels different to eat 40 wings or 50 wings and 50 Oreos. Just because one does seem like a decadent, like. And I mentioned the word decadent a couple of times talking about the sweets in general, and I think it's really interesting that word literally means like to decay your free will, like decadent. Yeah. And like you describe wings a lot of different ways, but you don't describe wings or fast food or fried anything as like decadent, right? Like
decadent is reserved for like sweet. Overwhelmingly, it's reserved for sweet things and for like seductive things. That's the other thing. Like decadent also has like connotations to like sexual mores and stuff like that. Like that, like seduction. And sweets are like like if you look at like chocolate ads and stuff like that, like
seductive.
A lot of them are very sexual. Like it's kind of weird. Like they rely on like a lot of those things, like especially like old fashioned like ads for like candies and stuff. Like they're very much rely on like sex appeal, and that goes with the decadence.
And I think that's interesting too, because we were talking about like the masculine, like the peacocking, like this, like trying to impress your preferred sex, whatever, with your actions. But I think it's interesting that like, okay, but you would never. There's nothing like I don't see as many like sexual seductive ads. Like chocolate is considered it's like a romantic thing. It's a almost an aphrodisiac thing. Like you give chocolates on Valentine's Day to your significant other, your preferred person of the opposite sex, whatever. But you don't like imagine like, and maybe this should be something we should start off as a society is giving our significant others like a 50-wing bucket or whatever.
That's the way into my heart. I mean,
Exactly.
if you are an eligible bachelorette, please send 50 wings my way. I swear to God, I will pay your rent.